On this episode of Reidus and Cletus, we are actually driving the Corvette.
And it is amazing.
Let's go drive it some more. When I was 8 years old, I saw a picture of a 1970 Corvette in a book. I would flip to that page over and over just to dream about owning one. On episode 1, you watched that dream become a reality after I bought the Cletus Vette off eBay.
I paid money for this.
You did?
I paid a lot of money for this.
Alex and I thrashed in the summer heat for 7 days to turn this wreck of a Corvette into something that could be driven around the block. And we did. But even though it was on the road for the first time in 5 years, it really wasn't ready for a road trip. It had a badly leaking radiator, steering so loose it was nearly undrivable, and many other issues. At the end of the season, I parked the car in the garage with a mission: make the Cletus Vette capable of a real road trip. Then we could both finally drive this car in anger on some real roads. One of the things that bugged me about this car the most was the steering. It was so wandery and vague that it was like legitimately hard to drive on like anything but like a straight road. And it wasn't a power steering car when it was new, so I'm taking it out today. It should be a lot tighter and a lot more fun to drive.
You're back. What are you doing here?
We're making the steering manual.
Are you helping?
There you go. Am I helping? No, I'm just sitting around drinking beer.
So we just took off the Ram. What are we doing next?
Making more of a mess for the most part. But now we're gonna have to get rid of the pump and the lines as well.
And did you bring a voltmeter today?
I totally forgot.
God, Stan!
Well, our goal tonight was to remove the power steering and make it harder to steer, and
We made it!
we did it.
Lots of grease.
Lots of grease. It seems like a silly thing to do, but this car was not a power steering car when it was brand new. The system added was a like hodgepodge of various different GM power steering products, all of which leaked. The pump leaked, the ram leaked, the actuator leaked, every hose and every hose connection leaked, and I was tired of it leaving a piddle spot in my driveway.
It sounds like you're running out of fingers.
I know. So for $0, we removed all of that tonight. It's just back to a manual rack setup. Also, Stan is a beast when it comes to stuck bolts. Hey Matt,
Hello.
what are you working on today?
The Corvette, at least admiring.
To replace the leaking radiator, we first had to remove the old one. We had a bunch of our friends show up to help with the removal. We were also going to take a look at the fuse box, which had been giving us some electrical issues.
You can help him out?
I have no idea what I'm doing.
Perfect. You're
I
qualified.
also have no idea what I'm doing. I don't
And?
either.
I know exactly what I'm doing.
Thank God.
We had to drain all the coolant from the radiator before we removed it, and despite having 2 catch pans this time, we still managed to make a mess all over the garage floor. We did it a lot better this time.
Clayton's soft shoe technique.
There was a mess. Oh. No mess! So we're trying to remove the radiator, and I can't remember how we did it. So I'm watching episode 1, trying to figure out how exactly we made it happen. Because the radiator in the Corvette is like really tight. After lots of swearing and grunting, we eventually removed the radiator and turned our attention to the ruined electrical system.
We have disconnected the fuse box so that we can work on it easier and we can actually get to the fuses that need to be replaced and clean it up so there's no issues with connectivity and whatnot, and we're making sure that we don't set ourselves on fire.
That's always good. Do you concur?
Safety first.
I'm just so glad to be on the show, and oh, this is actually the biggest fan, but I'm also a big fan.
Get out.
When you invite one friend over, you can get a lot done, but when you invite 4 friends over, you usually end up getting nothing done. We did remove the radiator, but we had to leave the fuse box for another day.
Stan, what are you doing?
I'm waiting to get going.
It could be a while.
I sent the radiator out to a specialist shop to be repaired and had some time to kill before it was done, so I busied myself painting the radiator brackets to match the frame. I also took a few days off to go on an epic cross-Canada road trip with Alex to move him into his new home here in Toronto. When we arrived back in the city, the radiator was ready to be reinstalled in the Corvette. Two of my favorite things are in my garage. Alex's Datsun and my new radiator.
Yeehaw! So what's the deal with the new radiator?
So the old one kept the car nice and cool, but it leaked a lot. It just left a trail of coolant wherever it went. We took it out and had it rebuilt, and it's got a new core. It's still a 4-core radiator, but it's got really dense fins and a bunch of sciencey things that makes it keep my car cool.
Modern stuff in an old car. So that means that we have to put the new radiator in.
Hook it all up. But the big news is that the Corvette is going to fire up for the first time since like November.
Hopefully.
I'll bet some bearing grease makes this happen.
Is it threading on? So basically what we're doing is we found some old hose, and since we don't have screws that fit correctly, we're just gonna thread on some old crusty hose that will hold it on for the duration until we decide to restore this car again in a month. Using vacuum hose instead of bolts isn't exactly listed in the Haynes manual, but it seemed to hold all right. Clayton and I installed the radiator assembly and fired up the Corvette for the first time since January. Yep. After a whole winter of hibernation, the Corvette was alive.
With the coolant system bled and the new radiator working perfectly, we took the car out for a brief joyride around the block, without headlights. After sufficiently disturbing the peace, we called it a night. The Corvette was finally roadworthy.
It is 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and me and Clayton are waking the dead. We were awake at this ungodly hour to get prime parking spots at Cars and Coffee, a monthly car show in Vaughan, Ontario. It was the very first time we drove the Corvette side by side with the Datsun.
We had waited over a year for this moment, and it was amazing.
Good morning! This is the greatest thing ever.
The drive was going great, and then I left a stop sign with a little too much enthusiasm.
One part of his Corvette decided it didn't want to go to the car show. Hey, honk if parts fall off, right? Oh boy, I didn't know I'd get souvenirs at this car show.
We must have been driving pretty fast because we were the very first people to show up at the meet.
This will get a good spot. Still running a little lean.
But the lot quickly filled up and a few of our friends showed up with their classic rides as well.
There were plenty of cool cars on display, but our favorite was this delightfully ratty Corvair with a super cool turbo motor. We were in love with this thing.
We've been here since 7:30, and the Instagram brigade has come now. It's about 10 o'clock.
Yes, all the Subarus are starting up now.
Driving the Corvette next to Dotson has been like a dream of mine for so long. We finally got to do it.
Woohoo! So good. The Corvette sounds so good.
So consider Cars and Coffee done.
And a
Check
success.
It off the list. And a success.
Amazing, yes. On to the next event.
Where we drive it to. It's the day!
Today is the day that the Corvette finally gets glory.
Today is a bright sunny day here in Toronto, but we're not staying in Toronto. We are driving up north in search of twisty roads and adventure.
There's also a really cool, what is it, a lock?
Yeah, it's called a railway trestle lock, or correctly known as a... But...
It's really cool, it's really old, it's really rusty, just like all of our cars, so we're gonna check it out. Let's not wait any longer.
Let's go.
What's going on, buddy?
We only had one bolt holding this hood latch on, and I opened up the hood, this one just fell off completely.
Did we actually just lose a bolt?
We lost two.
Oh, there's one. There's actually 3 of them in here, so we can use one on the other side.
So we're in this little town of Orillia right now, Orillia, Ontario. We've been driving for about an hour, and in that time we have gone 64 miles, during which we have used 6 gallons of fuel, which means our fuel mileage so far is 10.7 miles per gallon, which is actually like within a tenth of what Alex's 1977 Suburban gets.
How could it be a road trip without Tim Hortons?
Good afternoon, officer. We were finally on the road with the Corvette. The car that had only been around the block was now flying down the highway, and it felt amazing.
We're the loudest thing for miles.
As always. We are here on my favorite road in Ontario. This is Southwood Road, formerly known as Muskoka 19, and it's just me, Alex, and a whole bunch of gnats, which you're seeing flying around the camera. Get away. Yeah, Alex has actually never been here before. What do you think of the road?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, let's get in the car and do some more driving. Cletus,
Yes.
what's going on here?
It won't start.
So what happened?
Oh, we were driving along, Alex was doing some shooting, I was doing some driving. And then I noticed it was leaking out of the back, something, or the fluid trail. So I pulled in here and shut it off because I was panicking. I'm like, what is it leaking? The fuel vent from the tank sloshing around in these high G turns. That's all it was. And then I went to start it. And it doesn't like to start when it's like really hot. So we're waiting for it to cool down. Having our little sandwiches. Alex made eggs. I'm gonna try it again.
I'm good at making eggs.
The temperature gauge is now down significantly. Way faster now. We're on the road again! Let's go!
Give me the Cole's notes of how to drive this.
Okay. Ride
the clutch.
Ride the clutch. Do not drive it like a Datsun.
This was actually a big moment for me. Clayton was gonna let me drive his baby, the thing that we had worked on for so long. I had actually driven this thing before, but it was really only around the block. I never got a chance to get it out of second gear. This was finally gonna be my chance to get the revs up and get this thing flat out on some real roads. Where are we?
We are up in Muskoka, near the Trent Severn Aquatic Railway. I did that on the first take.
Wow, that's pretty good.
It's this really cool Mad Max looking thing that takes boats from one side of the lake over to the other. There's really no other reason to be here other than just to gawk, and we love the roads that get us here. I wish I could tell you that this is like where I first fell in love with Corvettes, or this is where mine came from, or this is where John A. Corvette first discovered Corvettes, but none of that's really true. We just wanted to go for a drive because that's what you do when you have a car that works.
And when you finish a car, you have a cigar.
When I first bought this car, it was a car that you could drive up onto a trailer, and in 10 days, Alex and I turned it into a car you could drive around the block, and after another winter of work, the Corvette can be driven anywhere.
This thing is totally ready to go absolutely anywhere. The roads that took us here were beautiful, and the roads that are going to take us home are also beautiful, and that's what this car was built to do.
A classic car is never really done, but we had finally turned this shipwreck of a Corvette into a car that we could drive anywhere, anytime. We eventually made it home to Toronto, but the Corvette's home was in those remote, twisting roads in the hills of Muskoka. Oh yeah, we'll be back.